It's another Tisha B'Av. And we did this last year. And I really was hoping that would be the last Tisha B'Av that we would have to do. But here we are. We still have our kinnis. We're still sitting on the floor and fasting, not wearing shoes, and observing the morning and saying kinnis. And as I said last year, it's a struggle at this point. I think I mentioned last year from where he left. He always says, I hate Tisha B'Av. I really hate it. I don't want to do this. And when we hate it enough, and we're sick of it enough, then we won't have to anymore. But for most people, it's not so bad. Like milchiks. That's a big deal. One day I sit on the floor and I say kinnis. Okay, I don't really know what I'm saying. You can find a lot of meaningful programs online. Go online and find a whole day. People make videos specifically for Tisha B'Av. There are explanatory kinnis taking place around the world that you can go to our friends over at Torah anytime. They have them broadcasting from all around the world. You can watch kinnis a whole day. You can say the kinnis. As we mentioned, they're a little hard, but you can find explanatory ones, English ones. But a kinna is something that's supposed to really tug on our heartstrings. A kinna, the konain, is a whale. It's a cry of pain. Lahavdil. Laurence Olivier, I forgot which Shakespearean play was being made into a movie, and he gives this cry of pain. And he was asked in an interview, how did you come up with that cry of pain? I mean, it was so intense. So he said, I read once about this, I don't know if it was a frog or a lizard or what it was, that shoots out its tongue to catch a fly. And sometimes, when it's in a very cold area, it hits a rock, the fly with a rock, and its tongue gets stuck, frozen onto the rock. And it gives out this terrible cry. And that's what I tried to mimic. So what do we do? So we're mimicking. We're mimicking the cry that others have made throughout the centuries. When Lev Eliyahu of Lopian, so he gives his grandson a candy. So the mother says, say thank you. And he went, oi, that's how I done. Just like that. Say thank you. So Tisha B'Av is a challenge. And so we have to go into it on a deeper level to find the themes of what's taking place for us to be able to appreciate it. We dealt with one kinna last year. I hope this will be the last one that we have to do. I hope next year, when Tisha B'Av is the Yantif, I'll still be making my podcast, but I don't know that anyone will be watching it because Melech Mashiach will be broadcasting it. I'm sure he'll be much more engaging. I think about it all the time. Because they say of Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld, he used to push himself at the Simchas Beis HaShoeva to dance. He had problems with his feet. He had to work very hard. They said, Rebbe, why are you pushing yourself? And he said, because the Mishnah says that only the tzaddikim and Anshe Maisa got to dance. Now I can dance. When Mashiach comes in the Beis HaMikdash, I might not be allowed to dance. So enjoy it while you can. So now, if people are listening to me, I know I'm under no illusions that when Mashiach comes, So I will be a footnote to history. So I want to focus on one kina that captures a tragic Gemara in Gittin. In my kinnis, it's kina Chav Gimel. And it's a story. The kina is based on a story, a tragic, tragic story. Kina Chav Gimel. V'yesnavi chatosi hishmima. Because of my sins, the Beis was destroyed. V'damasi alachei azrima. And the tears that flow on my cheeks. V'yemazah nehi nihiyeh arima. I make a kina, lift my voice. The ahima b'yamim yamima. Every year I sigh. Evelei v'nichem chadal chadol. My heart mourns, and I can't be comforted. Ka'ol ke'ev tzivri nivdal badol. Al bein ubas Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol. Zichram Yekod v'levavi osima. My heart, like a fire, burns when I think about this terrible, terrible story. And the rest of the kina goes on to tell the story. And what's the story? The Gemara tells what the story is. Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol had a certain majestic beauty. In the time of the Beis Hamikdash, Josephus writes that everyone knew the Jews were the most beautiful people in the world. And Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol had a ziv panim. He was somebody who was exceptional. And he had two children, a son and a daughter. They were captured and they were sold into slavery. One master bought his son and one bought the daughter. And they noted the unbelievable beauty of these two individuals. And somehow the two of them met and they said, I just bought the most beautiful boy slave. The other one says, really? Because I just bought the most beautiful girl slave. So he says, you know what? Let's mate them like a thoroughbred racehorse. And we'll get beautiful slaves. We'll make a business. We'll sell the litter. We'll sell the children that come out of this. And so the two masters locked them into a room and figured this was going to happen. And so they each sat in different corners and they cried. And they said, I'm a Kohen, the son of a Kohen Gadol. This is what's become of me. This is how I'm going to be lowered. And the daughter in the other corner, I'm a Bas Kohen. The nobility, the greatness. This is what I've been reduced to. Could you imagine growing up in the house? You can't imagine. You're growing up in the house of the Beis of the Kohen Gadol during the time of the Beis Hamikdash. Kohen Gadol was somebody that people looked up to with he used to go into the Kodesh HaKadoshim and see the Shekhinah, experience it on some level that we can't even understand. And here comes his children. You can imagine they grew up in this house, thinking who they're going to marry, what their life is going to be like, what kind of a Torah home they're going to build. There's a halacha. You marry Bas Kohen, you have to be a Talmid Chacham, otherwise you're in danger. And the Kodesh Baruch Hu might punish you for the fact that you decided to take somebody who was the nobility of the Jewish people, and you are not a Talmid Chacham. My son had a Rebbe used to teach Bekiyas in the afternoon. He always taught Gemara Rosh Hashanah, and he said that the reason that he taught Gemara Rosh Hashanah was because he married a Bas Kohen. The Gemara says that you have to be a Talmid Chacham to marry a Bas Kohen, and the Gemara in Shabbos says the definition of a Talmid Chacham is somebody who knows one Masechta well. So he says, I chose Rosh Hashanah, and I'm constantly chazering it, and that's why I teach it for Bekiyas, so that I know I'm keeping my hand into the Masechta. So here she's going to be married off to some slave. According to one medrash, which started the war in the time of Hanukkah, was a incident with the Bas Kohen Gadol, because the Greeks had made this rule that Kala, who was going to get married, the Hegmon, the officer, could come and be with her first, and the Kohen Gadol's daughter was selected. This wasn't strictly taiva. This was being developed specifically to break the spirit and the kedusha of the Jewish people. Anyway, the Bas Kohen Gadol is getting married, and they hear the Hegmon's on the way, so okay, it's on us. It's basically a case of rape because you're not us or anything. So she comes out to the chasana wearing nothing, and everyone is scandalized. Bas Kohen Gadol. And she says, oh, I forgot, you people are so firm. You don't want to see me like this, but you don't mind handing me over like this to this evil governor, enemy of our people. And this worked the people up into such a rage. She's right. That when he came, they killed him and started the war. There's a point where you have to say, Ad Khan. And here she is in a room, all of her dreams shattered, everything gone, no family, no friends, alone in a room with some slave, to be defiled, to be breeded. She's sitting there crying. And he, a Kohen? Yeah. There's mitzvah to give kavod to Kohanim. In Klal Yisrael, they're supposed to get the first aliyah, they're supposed to lead the benching, there's a halachas. Here I am, a Kohen. Mistam, he worked in the Beis Mikdash, his father was the Kohen Gadol. A Truman Kutch with a big day kahuna. And now I'm going to be breeded with some slave girl. And the two of them are in two separate sides crying. And when daylight came and the sun came into the room, they saw that it was brother and sister. And they embraced. And they held each other and cried together until they both died in purity. They cried themselves to death. And this is the tragic story that this Kinnah discusses and talks about. The story itself is a Gemara in Gemara Gittin. And there's a number of dapim in Gittin that deal with the Churban Beis HaMikdash. And Reb Tzadok HaKohen, he says there's a reason why all of these are in Gemara Gittin, because Gittin describes what happens when a relationship fails. And that's the Churban Beis HaMikdash. It's a story of relationships between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that relationship going bad. Avraham saw the Beis Hamikdash as a mountain. Yitzchak saw it as a field. Yaakov saw it as a bias. This is the house of Hashem. This is the interface of Shemayim Ba'aretz. A bias is a place of an Isha and Isha. Five things happened on Tisha B'Av. First Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. Unbelievable. Second Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. The entire door, Yotzei Mitzrayim, we saw Kriyas Yamsuf and all the Nisim, it was decreed they would all die in the desert and never go into Eretz Yisrael. The city of Beitar was wiped out. There was so many people murdered that the blood flowed like a river to the sea. And Tanis Rufus plowed the Har Bayis. Okay, the basement was already destroyed. He plowed the Har Bayis. I mean, because Yaakov saw the Beis Hamikdash in its ultimate fulfillment. It's a bias. It's a place of an Ish and an Isha. And we lost that. It went back to what Yitzchak saw, which was a Soda, which was a field. A Soda is a field. It's a field is a place where you do business. You grow things. A house in a walled city, it doesn't go back to you in the Yovel. In the 50th year, it doesn't return to you. There's no owners. But a house in the field, that's considered part of the field. You live out there because you want to work your field. We had a bias. We lived with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Rabbi Levin, tzaddik in our time. So he gets into a cab. The driver says, "No, Efa Bayit Shalcha. Where's your home?" He says, "Ishti Meta, my wife died. Enli Bayit. Rak Yeshli Dira. Now I just have an apartment. I'll tell you how to get there." And a bayit is a place of an Isha and an Isha. Shiurim, we came out of Mitzrayim. We spoke about this last year. Mitzrayim. We came out of Mitzrayim. What do we do at the Seder night? We say Shiurim. Zochati loch chesed ne'urayich ahavas klulasayich. I remember the love of a Kala. And we come to Shavuos. 7 weeks later, we stand at Har Sinai, and there are hundreds of Chazal that compare it to a chasna. We get married. That's what shiurim is all about. That love between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And what's Eicha about? Isha Azuba. We lost that relationship. It was broken. Our home was destroyed. It was plowed like a field. That intimate relationship that we had with HaKadosh Baruch Hu was gone. So when we take a story of two Yidden, from the finest of Klal Yisrael, each one of them thinks they're being mated with a slave. And then they see their brother and sister and they embrace. And they leave the world in purity. Purity. Rather than to allow themselves to be defiled. To be a slave, to work, to be beaten, okay. But to be defiled? says the Kinder, Zera Aaron, the descendants of Aaron, of the Kohanim. Somebody told me that they don't have a lot of tznius rules in Gateshead. This is what I heard. I didn't check into it. They have one rule: dress like a buster. So someone said to me, "Why do we need so many rules?" I said, "Because, as a wise man once said, common sense isn't as common as it used to be. There are things that it would never occur to us to make rules, because tznius is related to one word, and a word that you don't really have today. It's called dignity. It's called carrying yourself with chashivas." I used to teach in seminary. I had 3 rules. Make sure your cell phone is turned off, because when it goes off during class, it's very disruptive to everybody. No talking. No talking. If you're bored, go outside. I marked you in attendance. I don't care. Go outside. I don't care if you sit here or not, but don't sit here and talk. Chutzpah, and it's disturbing to me and to the other girls, etc. And if you're talking because you're not interested in what's going on, there's no problem. Go outside. There's no penalty. Go outside and talk. Have something to eat. Take a drink. Do whatever. And the 3rd rule was no gum chewing. This used to get girls crazy. What's wrong with chewing gum? I said, it's not dignified. The Queen of England doesn't chew gum. There's a certain, I haven't seen it. I don't think it's happened, but a kala under the chuppah is not chewing a piece of gum. Carry some dignity. And the girls would say to me, we don't care. And I said, in this class, you're going to see yourself the way that I see you. Dignity. That's what tznius comes from. Kol gvul bas melech panima means I'm a princess. It means that I'm somebody important. I'll just do whatever I want, wear whatever I want, talk however I want. There has to be a certain dignity. You carry yourself. Somebody who was with Moshe Shapiro when he was in Prague, he says he was walking down the street and the crowds just parted. He didn't say anything, he didn't do anything. They just sensed that you're dealing here with a different type of a person. I remember reading that the Dutch masters used to paint pictures of Jews because when you saw a Jew, you saw nobility. You sent chashivas, importance. Rav Hutner, back in the 1960s, said in Europe there were a lot of schmoozim dealing with gaiva. So you had to deal with gaiva. Because in America we don't have to deal with gaiva. We have to deal with the lack of self-worth. I'm not worth anything. Nobody cares what I think. Nobody cares what I say. It doesn't make a difference what I do. And so a person doesn't think he's important. So who cares what I say? Who cares what I wear? But the children of the Kohen Gadol during the time of the Beis Hamikdash, they had a sense of gravitas. They understood that they were somebody important. They understood that they represented something in Klal Yisrael. Gemara in Shabbos brings 4 Tanoim who all say the same thing. Every Jew in Klal Yisrael is considered nobility. Now you know this, right? Certainly the men know this. because the Mishnah says that you're supposed to say Kriya Shema uvkumecha when you get up, which is of course sunrise. And Rabbi Shimon says no. Princes get up already so late at like the 3rd hour of the morning. So you can still say Kriya Shema until the 3rd hour of the morning. Anybody who does not say Kriya Shema, by nates. So they're relying on the fact that they hold that they're nobility. You hold that you're somebody important. Busyness. Yisrael is subject to such busyness. Laughed at, insulted. The only type of racism that's allowed is anti-Semitism. Black Lives Matter have anti-Semitic points on their program, their website. People can make anti-Semitic things. Well, we have to educate them, we have to speak to them, we have to this, but you say anything against other groups, forget about it. You're cancel culture, you're finished. But they can bother us and insult us and trash us and say the most horrible things about us. That's okay. That's okay. And the problem is that you put up with this abuse long enough and you start to integrate it. We forget. We've been named Malachim. We have gravitas to us. We are important people. One day a year we mourn. We mourn for the Beis Hamikdash because there used to be a relationship between us and the Kodesh Baruch Hu. That was the most beautiful relationship in the world. And we mourn the fact that we've been reduced, being sold as slaves and mistreated and abused. We forget sometimes because, when there's no pogroms, there's no crusades, no Holocaust, no Inquisitions. We forget. We think, yeah, everything's okay. Everything's not okay. It's not okay. The abuse. And we start to become those victims who start to think that, yeah, we are what they say about us. A terrible, terrible thing. And Tisha B'Av, we remember, we were great. And that day's going to come. I said it in my regular podcast, but if coronavirus teaches us one thing, it's that Hakadosh Baruch Hu can do anything. He can close down the entire world if he wants to. And if he wants to bring back the Beis Hamikdash, bring the Jews back to Israel, and build the Beis Hamikdash, he can do that too. And then we'll have that sense of greatness, of grandeur. It says if you wear tzitzis, so thousands of non-Jews will run over and grab onto your tzitzis and say, teach us Torah. Because something will turn out that we were right all along. And once again, Jews will be who they're supposed to be. Because they understand who they are. I hate Tisha B'Av. I hope you do too. I hope this is the last one. I don't like saying kiyas. I don't like fasting. I don't sit on the floor. I don't like the reflection on who we used to be. I want to put the reflection on who we could be. who we have to be. Mitzvah Hashem. All of us will have an Emerson Chama. And this will be the last Tisha B'Av.